feel like we have time to process. And then there are other ones. Anyway, so I call them one-its and two-its. Okay?
Okay.
One-its, system one-its. Neil, back up. Back up, Neil. And then, all right. Anyway, um, so literally how the neuron works, it is an if-then thing. Dendrites here, terminal there. Um,
Yes.
so you can I think you could quite literally um, yeah, you could say, look, here's this it. We see that it's receiving from the temporal parietal junction, and it slaps the amygdala. Slap meaning like triggers or whatever. Okay. So that's one thing that's really cool to have like a sort of a concrete, clear way to talk about the elements of the mind. And it helps us move away from our sort of how the mind sees itself without computational
Yes.
neuroscience.
Yes.
Okay, so Neo, I'm only gonna ask you one more time. Get on the bed. Thank you. Okay,
That
so
worked. Neo got on the bed from
yeah,
that.
he got on the bed, and now
Wow.
the cat was able to move around. So he's going up front. He'll maybe come by and say hello later.
Okay.
Okay, so um okay. Now the vocabulary, it's I'm very proud of it. Um, it's not what I'm most excited or the latest development, but I am very excited about. I do want. I think that this kind of breaks open a way to talk accurately about the mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, okay, now the really exciting thing for me, the concrete thing, is what I've been doing with ChatGPT of um, hold on a second. Do I want to share that with you? Um, okay. So, right. Because I want to ask you, because I was like, all right, ChatGPT, I didn't feel like it was giving me a good answer, but you might have a good answer. But then I ended up inventing a term. But still, tell me what term already exists. So, um, when is this timer gonna run out? Oh my goodness! I don't even think I realized how sober I was too. Um, okay. We're looking for nodits and the dominoes thing. Okay. Um. Okay. Let me give you. Let me just. I'm gonna tell have my computer read. Oh no, but she'll mess up the pronunciation. I am going to copy and paste something to you.
Yeah. Just send it to me.
All right. So try to read through that, and we'll talk about it in a second. All right. Can I read something to you from my conversation?
Yeah,
Is it
go.
easier for you if you read along if I share? Oh, I'll share my screen.
Yeah, that probably would be easier. Either send it to me or share your screen. Either is fine.
Uh, I'm going to change that because it messed up. I had the windows together. Oh no, it still does. Okay. Okay. So I talked to her about things I want to talk to Leo about. Let's see. All right, here's where we want. Okay, so we'll start. We'll start here. Can you play me? And I'm going to read her response or just the important bits from her responses.
Sure. Starting from where you have,
Or do
okay,
you
so
not
we're wrapping.
understand well when you're reading it aloud for the first time?
N- That's fair. Yeah, so I'll start on, okay, so we're wrapping up for today. There you go. There you go.
But my question is, I just what's best for your processing? Do you want me to read
Yeah,
it
no,
to
that's
you? Do
good.
you want to read it? Do you want to read it by
I'll
yourself?
read I'll read your part and you read ChatGPT's. Okay, so we're wrapping up for today. Last thing though. Let's add not it, pronounced with the long O vowel, so note it to the vocabulary. Let's define it as a node in the it map for the intents and purposes of the conversation which the term is used. Discards potentially significant bottom information before slapping top mechanisms and vice versa. Okay,
I think you just missed a word that. So a node in the map that discards potentially significant blah blah.
I understand. Okay.
So great. So we'll add that to the vocabulary. And then she just repeated what I said.
Say it in a way that demonstrates understanding, maybe in your own words.
Okay, certainly. A noded is like a filter or gatekeeper in the network of our cognitive processes. It decides what information is important enough to pass through to higher level mechanisms and what can be discarded or ignored, so it selectively filters out certain details, blah blah.
Not quite. I know there is a term for what I'm describing. What chopes me about, I don't know that one. What
Oh, that's
chopes
the
me,
opposite of sing, which means what I find objectionable or what doesn't sit right with me.
okay.
What I
About
think
your
is
text,
wrong.
yeah, about your text is my inference of quality and intentionality regarding the filter. The node is not an intelligent evaluator. It's just the nature of simplifying, of modeling, of streamlining, like you said. It's not a thing that interferes with the propagation of information. It's just that information doesn't purely propagate. Like dominoes don't change location. Each domino just triggers another one. And that activity is the information. Actually, the dominoes might be a useful metaphor. Imagine 5 lines of dominoes converging at two side-by-side dominoes. Beyond that pair, there are 3 more lines of dominoes diversion.
Uh,
Dominoes diversion.
I see what you mean now. The node can be likened to a junction or intersection in a network in a network of domino chains. At this point, some dominoes might fall away, representing discarded or irrelevant information, while others continue along their path, representing the information deemed important enough to be processed further. All right, let's skip the rest. Oh, wait, no, 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 just her last sentence. Each domino chain represents a different aspect or type of information, and the node it determines which paths are taken, shaping the overall flow of informational processing.
Okay, so replying to that last sentence, it's not the node it that determines, but instead it's the node its position and pose that determines. Suppose we have 5 lines, A, B, C, D, E, pair noted N1, N2, 3 lines F, G, C arrangement, F, G, H arrangement. We're going to do the thing and then set it up again and repeat. Suppose the first time I flit the bottom lines AE, the AE cascades will happen and their final dominoes would exert a, oh, my dog just walked in, hello, would exert a particular vector on N1 and or N2. N1 and or N2 will fall as they will, and there's only so many directions the pair can fall. Suppose with their fall, they slap F and H, which fall straight ahead, If you've been patiently waiting at the other end of our arrangement, you would not be able to tell among A, B, C, D, E who among A, B, C, D, E were slapped. The point is, I don't like the word filter. I'd rather a computer science or I don't know term that reflects the necessary loss of information that comes with the simplification or compartmentalization without value judgment or intention of or knowing, like reduction by hierarchy. I don't know. What do you think?
So then she talks about confluence mode, convergence. Anyway, well, that I think that's actually the idea, and that's
Okay.
also important because I mean she really struggled with it. You know, she did better than most humans, but she really struggled with with not anthropomorphizing the node. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I really think that in order for humans to have the humility to advance, we really have to see ourselves as just the biomechanical entities that we are, you know?
Yeah. Wait, okay. So I feel like I'm worried my understanding is not too diff is too close to ChatGPT's understanding
That's what I
for
love about
one.
you. You're so smart to notice, to possibly notice that. I didn't notice that, so I'm so glad. All right, I'm listening.
So
Maybe there's a particular
show
thing.
me just scroll up a little bit, I guess, to so I could see those two big a little bit further. Yeah.
And some of it might be that I just am hyper vigilant about anthropomorphization. So there are times maybe where she wasn't doing that. She was describing accurately, but I wasn't satisfied.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah. That's just I feel like that's the language. Like when it's the note it determines, things can determine without having consciousness. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Um,
But I know that that's a common fallacy in a lot of our thinking. So I understand, I guess, why you're hypervigilant about that. But so I guess now I think, okay, I think I actually do get it. And but I see why you're still a little, what's the word, choked by it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, um, yeah, yeah. The nodit can't like determine which information is useful, for instance. It can't filter out information. It didn't receive that information. It just received, you know, whatever it received. It didn't receive the stuff that went into what it received. And
Yeah.
or if you all right, hold on. We're here's where the node conversation started. All right, so after that willed ignorance thing that I sent her, and then she, you know, paraphrased and describes it, then I say this. Do you want to read this to yourself or aloud, whichever?
Let me just read it to myself. The what's also interesting part.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm sorry. Yeah, maybe read that, but that's not. That's okay. Read that anyway, but that's not actually. It's the one after.
Yeah, okay.
Here we go.
Remind me what X livers is.
That's output.
Okay.
So when the yeah.
Sure. Okay.
I don't know. But anyway, we communicated enough about that. You know, I don't know where my gauge or dial is, but I do like erring on the side of uh, things that avoid thoughts about deliberation, consciousness, intelligence, and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so you have
And
the oh
one
yeah,
more question.
yeah,
I don't know I don't know enough about neuroscience to know the scientific back. This makes sense based on my understanding of how neural networks and neurons and how the brain works. But I guess I don't know what my question is. Like,
well, what do you
yeah,
what how does what is a neuron? How does it tell me about
and
it?
a neuron takes in inputs with weights, and if things meet a threshold, it fires, and if it doesn't, it doesn't.
Yeah. So, and I think it might be worthwhile sort of the details, but this might just be again
Yeah, yeah, go.
wait. But I mean, how much time do you have? When because you
That's a
got
great question. I was just thinking about that. I have until like 1:40, and the only reason I'm limited is like because I have to pack for my trip.
yeah. So
Half
one
hour.
half hour. Okay, okay. Um um. All right. We can maybe come back to that. Okay.
Okay.
So now, can you look at the Google Sheet? It has some orange on it.
Yeah, I'm going to that now. Okay, I'm here.
That's okay. I'm deleting this thing that I just copied and pasted to send later. Okay. Um. All right. So here's what the sort of the focus for me is at this moment. It's all right. Here's the idea.
Yeah.
Jesse has created a terrible, in my opinion. The items are fantastic, but I don't think the organization makes any sense. And you'll look at it, it's like, I mean, even the branch of mathematical error is psychological. Mathematical reasoning is a psychological event. Like, anyway, but then he'll have like insufficiency over here. Anyway, um, so Uh, so first, what I was doing with ChatGPT is I wanted to reformulate. I wanted to define each fallacy with an if-then rule. So for instance, the in-group bias. If they are of my in-group, then I afford them leniency. The masked man fallacy. If that doesn't look like a person I know, then it isn't a person I know. Okay. Um, so everything in column N, those are pretty much. I think those are all from ChatGPT. After I'd explained sort of the whole idea, some of them are terrible. It's just she just used the definition and moved the words around. But some of them are really really cool. Um, so we were doing that,
Okay.
and eventually I realized that these labels that we have are not actual things in the brain. They are themselves sums of things. So every one of these fallacies, bias, heuristic, illusion. By the way, the word for that is a mallet, a maladaptive it. Okay.
Yes.
So this is a list of mallets, and or a list of labels that we've given to manifestations of mallets. So at some point, ChatGPT and I are working on it, and I start breaking down the fallacies into components, parts, as we saw at the willed ignorance thing. And also, even if you look in column N at her its, we there are themes, there are things in common, um, which is just really cool. There are conditions that we see over and over again, and there are certain consequence that we see over and over again. Um, um, so, so I want to break them down. And then the next step is, eh, I have no idea how many it would be for a given fallacy, but suppose we could do a fallacy in like four elements. All elements could also be broken down, but we suppose we can do like for willed ignorance, and then we'll see that some of those appear in other fallacies. So then the taxonomy could be organized sort of maybe by the appearance of certain elements. Oh, the other idea I had was the evolution by evolutionary advantage. So social cohesion, personal emotional stability, resource economy, threat evasion. Maybe I don't
Interesting.
know. I'm still thinking about the organizing. So that's one thing I want to work
Yeah.
on in the future. But right now, what it is I want you to see how awesome just fucking how true the theory is, and you can see that by you take a fallacy, you
Yeah.
try to break it down, you try to come up with a few if then statements, or you can just do it in one, and you've done a good job if you can explain the evolutionary advantage to that if then statement existing.
Yeah.
So for instance, cliche thinking, ChatGPT, I think that's based on something I think. But anyway, if well-known saying, then assume truth. Evolutionary advantage is obvious. If everyone in the tribe is saying this, it's probably true. I mean, not now and today because there's so much new information all the time, but stuff like that.
Yeah.
If something is easy to understand, if something is hard to understand, then it's probably false. Why? Because throughout most of our history, the world hasn't changed all that much. A couple ice ages, whatever. But the world hasn't changed all that much. So we've had enough time to sort of install knowledge of reality, how to swim as a newborn, blah blah blah. This stuff that our biology was able to evolve to adapt to the world. Um, so like if you tell me, hey, that thing is falling, you better move out of the way. I'm not going to be confused by that. It's pre-programmed, like genetically, the concept of
Yeah.
a thing falling, I need to get out the way. Now, if I say, hey, look, there's a worm there, and it's going to jump up and devour you. I can't picture that. That doesn't seem real. That doesn't match any of my pre-programmed or my experiences. And typically, what was pre-programmed in your experiences did show you enough of reality or what you were going to encounter, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So that's the fun thing, and uh, there are a couple things in this list that like noble savage fallacy is the idea that um, humans were all noble and good and moral and 100% just great back before civilization, and civilization corrupted them. And so that's hard to do as an if then. That's more of a knowledge it, or like a belief it, which I call a yit, and then there's objective its, which I call gits. Anyway, um, but I think that's the only one that comes to mind out of all these that I haven't looked at every single one, but after looking at a lot of them, that's the only
Yeah.
one that comes to mind where there's not an obvious if then evolutionarily justifiable mechanism.
Oh, sorry. Somebody's calling. Sorry about that. Yes. Wait, even then, I feel like you'd come up with one. I mean, maybe it's tough to say that civilization corrupts somebody when from a perspective where civilization doesn't exist. So I hear what you're saying.
Oh no, but
Uh,
actually, no, you're totally right. All we have to do is break it down into its elements. So we can imagine that we've seen from in interactions in life that people there is definitely an it that exists in all minds about a certain purity that beings have when they start out, and
yes,
then something corrupts them.
yes,
So basically, wow, look at this. So part number one is if something is corrupted, then it happened. It was something that happened to them. It was something. It's a change. Okay, that I can see why we evolved with that, to assume a certain baseline of purity, at least for our in-group members. That makes sense to me. And then you just need another it to go, well, if civilization is a thing that can change people, um, and well, you need like a summit. You need one to go that's going, all right, so something must have corrupted them. Oh, civilization is something, therefore civilization corrupted them.
yeah. It's nice. Well, I don't know if this is evolution, like an evolutionary reason, but it's just nice to think that deep down we're all great, you know?
Hey,
Like that's just a
and that
that's a comforting thought.
that's awesome.
Um,
But now
so
try to find
yeah,
the evolution in it, because none of our
yeah.
thinking is based on like what we want to think or something. Like, why is it comforting?
I actually don't think I don't know if people like this like I don't know if people 10,000 years ago thought that, to be honest. Like if they saw a random person that was in their out group and not in the in
No,
group.
no, 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 no. I mentioned in group. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Totally. Out
But
group,
I'm
they're
just saying,
good.
wait, so sorry, say that again. This only applies to people in the in group?
Yeah.
Okay,
Out group, it adds another layer, which is going to slap other things. Now,
that's
that
fair.
said, once you interact, and we see this when people talk about other races and other groups, I feel like it is a real experience that humans will talk about. Be like, oh, well, they won't like say, oh, I'm racist, but they'll be like, oh, I met him, I wasn't sure about him, but I got to know him, and he's like just like me, and he's well, okay, that's one thing, just like me, but there's a okay, how about this? Once an individual gets to know someone of the out group, uh,
Yeah,
whereas before they were attributing all of the malevolence or whatever to the outgroup member's character. The whole point, what happens with that exposure is that we start to go, oh, deep down they are okay. And we're more willing to attribute their crime or whatever to circumstance. And
mm,
that's a fact that we, with the in group, we're always willing to attribute it to circumstance, and with the out group, no. Uh,
yeah,
so yeah, so I think that there's a out that out group element is going to pi or pulse, which means like inhibit our purity assumption. But we do see it come back, I think, when
yeah,
people sort of give people a chance.
yeah,
Like you just get to talking, and then it's like, oh, maybe you're not so bad. I don't deny any of your actions or any of the things that bothered me, but I no longer attribute it to you. You're just like me, you're pure on the inside. And remember,
yeah,
there's so many of these interacting, right? So just because the purity assumption exists in a person doesn't mean that every time we see someone we assume purity. That's not necessarily what X livers.
right. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what That's interesting. That's something I have to think about to see. I'm not sure what the evolutionary explanation of that is.
Well, because then if you assume that they're pure, then you'll give them a chance
Yeah,
and you'll try to teach them. Because if they're just rotten to the core, it doesn't. You can't teach. You can't add
yeah,
stuff to their rotten core and they become better.
yeah. So maybe it's just a social. It's a thing to help us be social. And
Yeah, and to spread like information and to improve our comrades rather
yeah,
than writing them
yeah,
off.
yeah. No, I think that's probably. I think that's a pretty good explanation.
Okay, how about this?
Yeah,
You're gonna give me 9 more minutes, right? Or no, 19 more minutes, right?
yeah,
Okay. Go why don't you go to the taxonomy? Can you share your screen now?
yeah.
Go to the taxonomy, choose one, and I want it to be in the taxonomy so that you can see the branches. Um Choose one and
Oh, it says host disabled participant screen sharing.
host. Oh, really? So then what do I do now? Participants, Leo Moore, allowed to record local files, allowed to multi-pin?
I don't know if that's it.
Can you try it?
Yeah, no, it's still not working.
Okay, I will open it then. Oh, I'm disappointed. Why don't you glance around the thing? I'll try to figure out how I can.
Yeah.
Ah, done.
There we go. I was looking in this influence section here. So what do you want me to do? Say it again.
I want you to be happy. I want you to feel intellectually stimulated, and I want you to help me save the world. Oh, right now, I want you. I think one way to achieve those ultimate goals might be for you to right now click somewhat randomly on one of these, read the definition, and I want us to try to imagine um, an it for it, or a few its for it, and the evolutionary advantage.
I'm looking at satire here.
Yeah, I see your screen. I'm not gonna look at.
Okay,
Yeah, you're ready.
here. Okay, so I don't know if satire is synonymous with sarcasm, but it's definitely a cousin of sarcasm, right? This idea and I took a linguistics class this quarter and I had a professor explain why sarcasm works in a way that I can't not hear sarcasm. I can't hear sarcasm and not think it now. It's imagine we walk out of a movie. I didn't cue this up because I had a reason for it. I just clicked on it, realized I promised. But this one I actually think
Thank
I
you.
get. Let's say we walk out of a movie and I say the movie wasn't very good and I say that was great. Not only is that implying that I don't think the movie was good, but it's implying it's so clear cut and
Yeah, it's
so
obvious.
objective that the movie wasn't good, that is accepted information for speaker and listener, and not something that has to be said. And so I can say the other thing, and I know for a fact that you aren't going to misinterpret it because it's so obvious, and it's a way to kind of build it, like, I don't know what the right word is, but to kind of build like we're so on the same page
Yeah, bro, it's a way to
by
almost
going,
acknowledge or take a moment to both appreciate how on the same page we are. I think that's why, I mean, that's why smart people love irony and sarcasm so much,
yeah.
because it's like how boring to just state the truth when we both know that. Let's go, you know.
Yeah. And that's why it could be so mean sometimes too, because it just can say something even stronger than, not like, I don't like your shirt, but like, oh, like that's that, you know what I mean? You could use it to be really mean because you could just make things, you can make utterances so much stronger that way. So anyway, okay. Anyway, so okay, new
Wait,
one.
no, but for that one, try. Let's do some if thens. We've
Okay.
got part of the evolutionary advantage of sarcasm in general.
Wait, so give me a structure. What do you mean by like by
Yeah,
like
okay. So for instance,
Oh, I think I understand. Hold on. So it's like if like God, there's a word that I'm thinking of that and it's driving me crazy. It's not like cohesion.
cohesion,
Um,
congruent,
I don't know. I don't know what I'm thinking of. But something, oh my God, go away. If I want to build um a sense, I'm gonna use a longer frame of it, but a sense of agreement and on the same pageness with somebody, I will say the opposite of what I then say the opposite of what you really mean. Is that what you're talking about? Like that kind of structure?
um, that's the great first step. Uh,
Yeah.
so not the only. So my first response would be that don't include I. This is one piece of the I. We're not talking about actual end behavior. Um, um, and so I try to phrase them more as just like a line of code, you know? I don't know. So like for instance, if mockery possible, if mockery of idea possible, then idea is false. That is kind of a reliable indication of the truthness of an idea, how easy it is to mock. So that's a heuristic that we evolved with.
Okay. That makes use of this. I see.
Well, so I'm saying that one component. So there's this thing that this rhetorical device we call satire that we've included as a fallacy, because it should not sway your audience as much as it does. And the reason that it sways your audience is because they also have this it. If mockery is possible, then idea false. So if let's say if idea shopes, then idea false. If idea false, then tell or show idea false. If mockery of idea possible, then idea, then evidence, then idea false. If show idea false and mockery possible, then mock.
Okay, I see.
And then these are kind of interacting. Some of them are subsequent to other ones, or there's a convergence between some of these. And ultimately, what happens is the system produces mockery. And how it got there was, and I'm just talking about mockery rather than the word satire.
Sure.
Did that make sense what I did there?
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Okay, let's do another one. If you're ready to move on.
Bro, and you tickled me when you said let's do another one.
I'm gonna click on something I don't know what it is by just reading the word.
I hate that definition.
Holding a phrase or sentence in order to, yeah, I see why you don't like it. Boban, shut up. Boban. Okay. So here we go. I think this will come. This isn't my if then. This is me working towards it. If you have an idea that you want to support and you want to justify and you want to find evidence for, and there is a snippet or a perhaps out of context, but part of another thing that is common ground between you and another person that can justify an idea that you want to support, then use snippet of common ground idea to support idea you want to support.
Yeah,
Yeah?
what I wrote is if counter evidence available, say counter evidence.
Yeah, that's simpler. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and it really goes to show there were not a bunch of it's going, hey, we know this is out of context, but let's do this. No. The brain saw counter evidence available. There was an absence of an it going, wait a minute, context.
Yes.
It's Occam's razor, bro. Like, I hate that this dude is creating this taxonomy and presumes that, like, anyway. Anyway, that's an important piece of it. So yeah, let's do another one.
I like that one.
And that you're going to see in a bunch of fallacies. If counter evidence available, say counter evidence. That's going to be a piece of a bunch.
Incompatible premises. I asked you to trust no one. This is a weird one. Because this is almost like you could use in faulty logic to do lots of different things. Like this is more of just a categorization or a feature of lots of different. I don't like this one. I'm gonna go off
Wait,
this one.
hold on, real quick.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, and that's why like the definitions and examples can throw us off because they're written from the wrong paradigm or the wrong perspective. But so basically, how can this happen in the brain that you present a conclusion from incompatible premises? Well, basically, the brain is if you have an idea, say the idea. If you can say things related to the idea that seem like evidence, then say them. There's just no
Okay.
check for compatibility. So, like for instance,
Yes.
it could very simply be the doubling of the word trust. That's how the sit stem was like, yeah, this works.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I think that's fair. I think that's more
In fact,
generous than
I think that something like this would fail. Incompatible premises would be more obviously incompatible if, for instance, you just changed up the language so that there were fewer semantic similarities.
yeah. Yeah. Okay. I like. Applying an exception to a generalization. this is almost the same thing
This is giving me same vibes as stuff we've just talked about.
as what I think as what you just said of the just kind of wanting to. I think people,
If there's an instance that supports my case, then talk about the instance.
yeah,
And
yeah,
then there's just a lack of the it going, whoa,
yeah,
whoa, actually.
I agree. Let's go to something else in a different section.
Oh, wait, hold on. I just have to point out. So
Yeah,
the origin of the taxonomy is fallacy, right? All of these are meant to be fallacies. Okay. Our our one removed yellow branch, our primary yellow branch is cheating. Okay. Look at the definition of
yeah.
cheating. Wait, first look at the definition of fallacy. Click on fallacy, please.
Word. Okay,
Do you know what a fallacy is?
I think
I mean, I
so.
know you could use the word and you can understand it, but can you define it?
I think this is fair. No, do you not like this definition?
I do like that definition. What I want to know is because what's so important about a fallacy, it's not just that there's a premise and a conclusion and it doesn't work.
Yeah,
It's the fact that it seems like it does. It's the fact that our mechanisms approve of that reason, that move.
yeah.
Okay, so a
You see what
fallacy.
Zoom did there? You made a thumbs up and it gave a thumbs up emoji.
Yeah, is that
Was
your first time seeing that?
maybe, yeah.
Been a few months. Yeah, cool. Anyway, you're behind. So anyway, so that's the definition of a fallacy. It's where you present something that seems reasonable but isn't.
Yeah.
Is that a fair? Okay, now let's look at cheating.
Yeah. I see why like
Now let's go down a level further. Can you scroll up? I think it's the first one in cheating. Spin doctoring. Wait, no, 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 no. That's not the one. It goes fallacy, cheating. Scroll down. Ah, bias thinking. Click that one.
under the influence of a cognitive
First
bias.
of all, you know I
Like
hate
it's
that phrasing. Second of
like
all,
it's a substance that you've consumed. Yeah.
yeah. Second of all, it's the same thing as cheating. It's saying that you're yeah, and hinders your ability. Like we have this natural ability, whatever. Anyway, now
Well,
click
this,
on
yeah.
a subcategory for that, which is scroll up, human nature bias. This is so absurd. All four of those levels are the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And so this is the category where you were like, this is the category where you're like, this should be the whole thing, right?
I was
Like,
saying the whole thing is in this category, and he's
yeah.
saying, no, 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 it's only a partial category. This is the psychological stuff, the bias stuff. Everything else isn't. I was like, no, everything else is. You can call your whole taxonomy human nature bias.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
How do you go from fallacy to cheating to bias thinking to human nature bias and think you've done something, think you've specified something? Because if you want to do all the fallacies, then you have to do um, claiming that a person is trustworthy because they are tall. Okay, we do assume that a person is smart or good because they are tall. We don't assume that a person is trustworthy. But if you want to include all the fallacies, put that in there as well.
Yeah. Some of them, okay, the only one that's comes to mind that isn't a human nature fallacy is like framing and the idea that we have people whose job, like especially in politics, like we have people whose job it is to make call things name. Oh, hello, there they are. Wait, I want to get a full screen on these guys.
Yeah, he's gone. It was a kind of
Anyway,
intense. Anyway, yeah.
um, like framing and the idea that we come up with a spin on something. Like there are people whose jobs it is to do that, and they think very hard and intentionally about how to do that. But I'm yeah, but no, the vast
No, 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 no,
majority of
no, no, no. I want to stick with that. There are people
yeah,
whose job it is to exploit all of our mallets. And they don't even know the mallets. They just exploit what their own mallets are. And we all tend to have the same mallets. Framing, um, framing is a psychological event, right? Someone can apply a frame and so on, but when you walk out in the world, let's say you have a nice inter. Okay, for instance, okay, I was gonna say something. I'm not sure. Okay, for instance, an example of framing. If a doctor asks you, "Hey, so you need this surgery, 10% mortality rate," okay, people are gonna respond. They're gonna be like, "Ah." More people are gonna say no. Doctor says to some other subjects, "Hey, you need the surgery, 90% survival rate." More people are gonna be like, "Okay, great." That's
yeah,
framing,
yeah,
and there's a reason why that instance of framing works. Why any instance of framing works. How it's all wired such that context and elements are related, and our perception of the context, our perception, or the anchor effect, things like that, have an effect on our future things. I think the evolutionary advantage is that, well, it's easier for learning, isn't it? You know, to be able to
yeah,
go, okay, so here's what, for instance, anchor effect, the pricing of something. Oh, so that's what that's worth. Okay. Oh, that's on sale for 20% less. I've learned that that's what that's worth. Okay, and it's just more efficient than having to
yeah,
somehow actually evaluate the you know value of the thing somehow.
yeah, yeah. Okay, I see. I see. Um, okay, so what's next for you? What are you spending most of your time on these days?
So what I've been doing now is digging into these it examples, trying to. I've only done a few. Willful ignorance I was pretty pleased with. Um, so I want to continue that exercise of identifying the parts for something in the taxonomy and their evolutionary advantage. Uh,
Yeah,
because if it doesn't have an evolution, if it can't be justified in our evolution, then and then once I've done a bunch of those, and I love for your help is I have ChatGPT's help, and you're the only other entity I got here. Once we do that, we'll see a bunch of themes, components. We'll see the building blocks of these fallacies. Then maybe we can organize the taxonomy accordingly. Definitely, you can have an index where we anyway, so we once we're able to organize and present easily sort of the elements, maybe we can be part of the catalyst of human self-awareness. um um I know I make a lot of comments putting pressure on you, and I've felt a lot of pressure in my life, like it's not going to happen if I don't do it. But then I realize, oh wait, the only reason I've realized these things is A, because the information is available, and B, because I'm a human brain at this point in evolution. So I may be a little bit unique, but over the next couple hundred generations, and the more research there is in neuroscience, and more these stupid soul religious generations go out, we will, regardless of what I do. But it would be cool to have contributed,
yes, yes,
and we're fucking ahead of the curve, bro.
yeah. Okay, so what I would say is like, yes, I definitely like tell me once you do more of them, tell me. I think that the next like my intuition is that we would get more bang for our buck in terms of persuasion, right? Because you've come up with this like extensive vocabulary and this catalog and right, and you're working on this taxonomy of fallacies and whatnot. But like nobody will go in and dive into that stuff with interest unless they're convinced of your fundamental tenets of
Absolutely. And if you want to take that role, take it. I know you're thinking, but Eris, you're so charming, you're funny, you're handsome, you would be a great figurehead for it.